As we mentioned, the Arizona Senate today voted to undo a near total ban on abortion that dates back to 1864, but was revived by the state Supreme Court after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. Governor Katie Hobbs is expected to immediately sign the repeal bill. What are the political implications, though, of the legislature repealing this abortion ban? For that, we asked longtime political consultant Chuck Coughlin, president and CEO of High Ground. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Great to see you.
Thoughts on what happened at the Capitol today?
Well, first off, the governor won't be signing that bill for another 2 weeks.
That's true.
Because the House adjourned.
That's true.
So, it's a funny thing. You get legislative procedure, but while the Senate was on the floor, before they had concluded, the House adjourned for 2 weeks. So the bill has to go back to the House to be transferred up to the governor.
Before we go any further with this, the bill doesn't even take effect until 90 days after the legislature quits for the session.
There's a lot of theater here.
They can drag this out, can they not?
Yeah, there's a lot of theater going on in a lot of places. Our Attorney General went to the Supreme Court yesterday and asked for a 90-day extension on that rule, so that's still being discussed. And then this bill, as you just said, when it does get to the governor's office, they have to read it across the House, the House floor. It has to be read on the House floor, and then it's transmitted to the governor. I presume that will happen on the 15th. She will then sign it, but the big question there is, any bill does not become law unless it has an emergency clause on it until 90 days after the legislature adjourns. Question mark.
Exactly.
When is that going to be?
And I want to get to the timing of this in a second here, but let's talk about Senators T.J. Shope and Shauna Bullock siding with Democrats. Was there much procedural business involved? Any shenanigans there?
Yeah, they tried.
Yeah.
They tried. Senator Hoffman was challenging the chair, challenging the president on some of the rules on the floor. He was wrong. He was told he was wrong. He tried to introduce another motion to cow the bill. Well, it's a third read on the bill. It's a third and final read on the bill. You can't do that. That's out of motion. So they had quite a back and forth between Peterson and Hoffman today.
And this was swapped out for the House bill, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because the House had similar drama here last week, and there we go. Okay. Anthony Kern, Senator Kern, this was the epitome of delusion, saying that I'm pro-life, yet voting for an abortion ban. And yet 2 Republicans did it. Why did they do it?
Well, I think that comes down to personal and political reasons, I think. And you have to ask them at some point. My observations are that Ms. Bullock, who is a avidly pro-life Republican, felt the exceptions here, as she said on the floor speech today, could a DNC procedure be ruled not legal under the territorial ban? She brought that up. She quite courageously admitted she had one. She's a very private person, and that was a really startling thing to hear her say. But she said, I was not confident. I would not be confident in my health care if this territorial ban. Mr. Shope, I think a little different. I mean, he's in a much more safe Republican district. Ms. Bullock, there may be some political inclinations there with her. She's in District 2, which has got Democrats in the House right now. She has a very competitive Senate race this time, so she may be trying to take that issue off the table. Mr. Shope is from Pinal County. He was part of the Medicaid restoration vote back in the day when he was in the House, where Mr. Biggs was rolled on that. And so, I'm not clear. I think it was my impression. I think he was under some domestic pressure.
Interesting.
In his own life.
You never know where the pressure's coming from.
Yeah, you never know. You want to be
with
clear.
that said, now ramifications for these 2 senators. What kind of penalty will they pay?
Well, that's an interesting question. Mr. Shope is the Speaker pro tem. We'll see if they remove him from that seat. That may happen. For breaking Republican protocol. That would be the first and foremost thing. Ms. Bullock is the head of a committee. We'll see if there is ramifications there internally down there. And then politically speaking, you're trying to figure out, this is a no-win situation for Republicans. It really is a no-win situation. Yeah. What my advice to any candidate has been to say over my career, the one issue you don't want to be caught standing in the middle of the road on, getting hit by traffic going in both ways, is this issue.
Yes.
You want to be declarative, you want to say what you are and be done with it. And that's very uncomfortable for some of these these senators today.
As far as the timing is concerned, again, 90 days after the end of the session, but you got the 45 days after the Supreme Court makes its final mandate. That hasn't been made yet. So you got a 45 thing there. You got a floating 90 day as far as the legislature is concerned. And now the AG, Attorney General Chris Mays, as you mentioned, wants the court to what? Just hold off on that final mandate until what? September 9th? What is she saying?
I think the argument is she's considering other appeals. So
to the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court?
Potentially.
Okay.
On the underlying constitutionality of the original territorial ban or some aspects of that. So she asked the court for some leeway to give, until it goes into effect, give me time to see if I can do that. So she filed that yesterday. So I think the court would be inclined to provide her that. I don't think given all these other machinations going on, I don't think they're, in the way I read their ruling, they were looking for exits on all of this. And so I think there's a reasonable suspicion that the court would grant that request.
Looking for exits, but not to reconsider.
No, the law was fairly clear on that. I know there's been a lot of criticism of the court on that, but the underlying law, which was not repealed when Ducey signed that other abortion, the 24-week abortion ban, the underlying law, they never repealed the constitutional issue. That was a key component. Kathy Herod and the pro-life movement in Arizona required that to stay in the law on the anticipation that Roe would be overturned and they would have that law reinstated on the books.
Statutory, not constitutional.
Exactly.
Decision. All right, last question here. As far as an impact on the election in November, is it too soon to tell? I mean, these dates, these floating dates, are they going to have a big impact on what happens in November?
I think it is, regardless, Ted. I think this is such an issue with such a big portion of the electorate that the will would be, if you want a woman's right protected, you want it in the Constitution. It's unassailable. And so that's going to be a turnout mechanism for them. And conversely, for the pro-life movement, you want that defeated. And so it is a fulcrum issue that will define a lot of the politics in Arizona this fall.
Got like 15 seconds left here. Is it going to be more of an issue in November than immigration?
I think as a turnout issue, yes.
Interesting.
I think as a turnout issue, it will be.
All right. Chuck Coughlin, great stuff. High ground. Always a pleasure. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ted.